Well, good morning, everyone. Or should I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ian Banner. You're watching an Agile Bite. Agile Bites are short videos that are delivered to your inbox nearly every Friday morning, depends on how my week has gone. Today's title is How to Double Your Team's Output and Value. I'm Ian Banner. So this is part of the theory of why Agile exists and why Scrum particularly came into being. And really, if you don't know this, the guy behind a lot of the thinking of Scrum is this guy, Jeff Sutherland, who I had the privilege of meeting in Oxford a few years ago and did my original Agile training. And I asked him a question or two about where all the ideas came from. And he told me the story of his work on essentially getting teams to be very performant. Very good at what they do. And so in this very short video, I'm just going to take you through some of Jeff's theories on how teams become very performant. Now, it's called part one because I suspect there'll be a few of these in the series, just talking about high performant teams before we move on to other things. I might not do them all in order as well. I tend to sort of move around. The point of the Agile Bites is to give you something interesting to think about. So we'll try and liven it up. Sometimes they'll be funny, sometimes they'll be informative. This is a team, or a representation of a team, a circle. A team is a bunch of people who together have a common objective to meet and need to work together to achieve that objective. Let me quickly answer some questions. Do all people have to report to the same manager? No. Do they all have to work in the same department? No. A team is just a bunch of people who together have a common objective to meet. A football team is a team. Perhaps your family, you consider your family a team sometimes because you have some common objectives to meet if you're part of a family, if you have children or your parents. Your mates at school were probably a team together because you had common objectives to enjoy yourself. So a team is anybody who have a common objective to meet and a need to work together to achieve that objective. Typically, this is a visual diagram of a team when it essentially first gets together. Sometimes it just stays like this. People are pulling in different directions. They're not really agreeing a common objective. Each has individual motives. That's each of the people that read. Maybe some members of the team aren't even in the team. I could give great examples of that. Sometimes in an IT company, for example, service management and release management could be completely different areas who sometimes pull against the objectives of the project, for example, for good reasons, by the way. I'm not saying they're not good reasons. I'm just saying, sometimes teams aren't all aligned in what they're trying to do. Now, this is where Jeff's work started. He went off and measured 8,000 companies across the world. He measured all sorts of ways to understand performance. A book, You Can Measure Anything, is a great book on that subject. If you want to know the full reference to that, then at the end of this short Agile Bite video, there's a little survey to fill in. And if you put in that survey remarks, please provide the full reference for the book you mentioned on measuring anything in. I'll put it in there. So he's a mathematician. When I asked him about this work, he pulls out a big laptop. It's scatter graphs, it's data points. Now this by the way, as I'm going to talk about, I just want to say it's not management theory. It's not, eat your frog in the morning, be mindful every day. It's actual scientific research that Jeff did over a period of several years to find out what makes teams performant. Now he says you can double the team's performance if you just make sure everyone is pushing in the same direction. Yeah. Okay, you see on that diagram there, they're all inside the team circle now, and they're all pointing in the same direction. So you can double the performance. So if the team was a 20k a month to run team, then you're now getting 40k a month of output for the same 20k costs. So Jeff said the next doubling happens when, if you notice on circle 2, not all the arrows are as long as each other. And what goes on there is some people on a team are more performant than others. They get more done. Now that doesn't mean people aren't useful. It's just their output can be different on the team. I used to ride a tandem with a mate of mine, and I was on the front and he was on the back, and I could always tell when he was putting effort in to push the pedals, because my life became a little easier. And really what this diagram is describing is that issue, which is some people are less performant than others in the jobs they do. If you've ever done any of my training, you've played Lego with me, and one of the most performant teams to ever play my Lego game included a guy who couldn't put Lego together. And yet they outperformed consistently hundreds and hundreds of teams who did that game. And the reason they could do that was because this guy who couldn't put Lego together could work out how to sort Lego very quickly. He could sort pieces into their groups faster than anyone I knew. Hence he moved essentially from there to there. Hope that makes sense. So this is another doubling. Remember, my team cost 20k at the start per month to run. I'm now at 80k. Let me put an 80k on there. I'm now at 80k of cost, just by that doubling. So Jeff says the next doubling happens when essentially people, those arrows are meant to show people helping each other. The best example I can give of this myself quickly is when I did my first Agile training myself. I played a game where you have to throw and catch balls. Everyone on a team has to, tennis balls, everyone on a team has to throw and catch a tennis ball. And when everyone has thrown and caught the tennis ball, you consider it done. And so I had a bucket. I was the guy throwing them in at the start in a circle. And I had another bucket with the word done on it. And the idea was once everyone had thrown and caught the ball, I could put it in the done bucket. I had to be the first person to throw and the last person to catch. I hope you get the idea. And the first time we did it, I didn't catch half the balls that were finally thrown to me. It was an 8-man team. And the guy who was throwing the balls to me was a good friend of mine, but I only caught half of them. And so we had a couple of minutes to do this. And then the instructor said, okay, I want you to spend a bit of time working out how you can improve, and then we'll do it again. And, I said, well, to the rest of the team, I said, look, this is a thankless job. I don't want this anymore. Someone else can do this. And nobody wanted to pick it up because it was a bit sort of, hospital pass. It was bound to cause problems, whoever had it to do. And so my mate said, look, why don't we change how we do it? So instead of us all talking, everyone is quiet except me. And when I'm about to throw a ball to Ian, I'll call his name and make sure he's looking at me before I throw it. And that was it. That was the change. Now, my mate still didn't throw very well. Occasionally I had to stretch to catch the ball. I didn't improve in my catching particularly either. I didn't suddenly become uber catcher. But we went from half the balls being caught to all of them being caught by simply changing a little bit of how we did our jobs. Now, remember, if I said this is a 20k cost, that's 40k output, that's 80k output, and that's 160k output for the same original costs. You can see that this is dynamite stuff, really. So Jeff says the next doubling happens when you have continuous and automatic testing. Now, because these Agile bites are a little short, I'm not going to talk about testing today. One of the other ones on hyper-performant teams will talk about that. But essentially, it means automating all your testing all the time very quickly. I'll come back to that in another video. The next doubling happens when you have a mature product backlog. That's what MPB stands for. Product backlog means all the things you've got to do on the project. Mature means it's in a good state, ready to be used, and very effective at what it's got to do. It's been thought through, it's been understood, it's in the right order to deliver, all of those things. Now again, a short video today, so I will return to the subject of product backlogs and how to make them mature in another video later. So Jeff says the final doubling to 64 times the output, astonishing, isn't it, is when you do continuous sprints. Now, if you're very new to Agile, a sprint is a short period of work. I'll explain that on another video, no doubt. Let's say you're doing a week's work. Well, that diagram explains the principle of you start on Monday, on Friday you finish that week's work, on Monday you start the next week's work, on Friday you finish that week's work, etc. And that's called continuous sprinting. And with that you can get to 64 times. Now, I've heard Jeff teach this to people. I've sat in the room when he's taught it. He described it to me personally, but then taught it to everyone as well. And he says, imagine going to a chief finance officer in a company and saying, I can get you 64 times the output for the same costs. And then he says, look, you're a big company. I probably can't get you to 64, but I can get you to 8. How would you like 8 times the output for the same cost? And I remember the words Jeff said, which is he shrugged his shoulders and said they always say yes. And who wouldn't? So I think we're at our limit in time-wise, so I better finish. Yes, we are, just over 10 minutes. So every time we finish one of these Agile Bites, I'll leave you with a homework shower challenge. The idea is it is homework, it is something to think about, but it's called the homework shower challenge because you don't have to write anything down. You just have to think about it while you're having a shower or brushing your teeth or having a run or waiting for a meal or just some time you've got with nothing else to do, just for a few minutes. And here's the homework shower challenge for this week. Let's go back to this diagram. Two things. Where the teams you've been in, and don't just think about work, think about life, football teams, hockey teams, church, wherever you do things. The teams you've been in, where would you put them on that diagram? Where would you say your team got to? Maybe you think you got to here, and that's all you did. Maybe we actually got to this point in this second circle, and that's where we got to. And some people go, oh, we're over here on the 8 times output. I'll talk about this some more in another video, but actually you don't actually do one, then the next, and the next. This set here that I'm circling now, they sort of all happen in layers on top of each other as you go along. So certainly that first move though happens before any others do, but then the 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16, those kind of moves, they all happen together almost simultaneously, with the team sort of storming and forming and norming and becoming, performing, all of those kind of things. So that's my homework shower challenge for this week. And then the second thing is, have you ever tried to measure the performance of a team? Because usually when I ask this question to people, I say, do you think the teams here are performant? They go, well, we get our job done. Nobody complains. We don't miss our deadlines. And that isn't actually measuring the efficiency of the team, really, is it? So that's it. These are Agile Bites. You've been listening to a 10-minute Agile Bite by Ian Banner. Since you've subscribed to the videos, you'll get another video from me next week, which is on another part of this area of high-performant teams. Thanks for listening.